These are the paints I've used in this video.
When adding transfers to models, we want to do it before any weathering is done, so the transfer looks like it's part of the model. So once you've painted whatever you're applying transfers to, you want to gloss varnish the whole area. Gloss varnish is going to give us a surface we can work with easily and help us move the transfer into position on the model. In this Kasrkin model, I'm going to apply transfers to the shoulder pad and the knee pad. While the varnish dries, we can get our transfers ready. Since I'm making my Kasrkin be an elite squad of Necromundan Guard, I use the Necromunda Enforcer Transfer Sheet. There are different sizes of the Seal of Helmore, but the ones I'm using on the shoulder pads are the ones in the rows of 5. This sheet contains white and black versions, so I'm going to use the white versions on these guys. Simply use a knife to cut out the transfers you want to use. On the knee pad, I want to use an X numeral from the Space Marine Transfer Sheet. This particular one is from the Primaris Intercessor Kit. We'll be making these Necromundan Guard be the 10th Regiment. Using a piece of sponge from a model kit, soak it in water and keep it handy for when the gloss varnish is dry. And when it is, put the transfer onto the sponge. It will soak the paper backing of the transfer and allow the transfer to freely slide off when we need it. I like to use Green Stuff World Decal Fixer and brush it onto the area we're going to apply the transfer. This stuff will help the transfer adhere to the surface when it dries, which means we're going to apply the transfer while it's wet. In order to get the model into a comfortable position for applying the decal, I use this assembly tool and sit the handle in at an angle. And using a pair of tweezers and a sculpting tool, pick up the transfer by the backing paper and move the transfer onto the area we want the transfer to be. Now we can position it where we want. Be careful when moving the transfer on the model because they can tear if you're a bit too rough with them, and we'll do the same steps for the knee pad too. If you're using the numerals, remember the top of the X is smaller than the bottom. Since we've applied these to rounded surfaces, you may find that the transfer hasn't adhered perfectly, or maybe there's a little bit of trapped air beneath and it's made a bubble. Green Stuff World Decal Softener can be brushed over the transfers and leave it for a minute or so. It will soften the decal material and allow us to very gently move the transfer a bit and push the air bubble out or allow it to adhere smoothly to a curved surface. Be very careful with how much pressure you use here, as the transfer becomes very easy to tear, so I use a brush to gently coax it how I need it. Leave it to dry afterwards. Now we need the transfer to blend into the model, and we also want to protect it, so apply a layer of gloss varnish over the entire area like we did at the beginning. Once the gloss is dry, take a matte varnish and apply it over everything we just glossed. I know this seems counterintuitive, but you'll notice that the transfers have a glossy border on them, and glossing over it disguises it. Then this matte varnish gives us a surface we can easily do our weathering on. The matte finish has really brought the transfer into the model and acts as a great protection from being rubbed or damaged by accident. It also looks like the symbol is painted onto the shoulder pad, as it would be in real life. However, the white is very stark and it doesn't look right on our dark paint scheme, so we need to add some simple weathering to knock the bright white down. To do that, add some thinning medium to rattling grime to make a nice grimy glaze. You can see on my palette it's essentially a tinted water. You could go a little thicker than this, but the thinner it is, the more control we get of the colour shift. Apply this in layers over the transfer, allowing layers to dry before adding more. We can make a nice gradient on the transfer, which knocks the bright white down to a dirty off-white. Once you have your glaze complete, you can add any chipping you want to add before a final gloss to protect your entire model, like I did with a couple transfers on this model's base to add worn floor markings.